Elijah grew up in a small, vibrant neighborhood where his love for art blossomed at a young age. While others played sports or video games, Elijah spent hours sketching, painting, and experimenting with colors. Life wasn't easy. His single mother worked multiple jobs to keep a roof over their heads, but she always supported his dream, even if others didn't. Elijah's high school art teacher once told him, "Your art tells stories, Elijah. Don't let anyone make you feel like your voice doesn't matter." As an adult, Elijah faced countless rejections from galleries and clients. Many judged him not for his talent but for his background. Yet, he held on to the belief that his art had value, hoping one day someone would see it too. Now, after years of struggle, Elijah gets an opportunity to display his paintings at a prestigious gallery. He puts everything he has into the event, hoping this will be his big break. Elijah stood in the corner of the gallery, nervously watching as art enthusiasts and critics wandered from piece to piece. The room buzzed with conversation, laughter, and the occasional clinking of wine glasses. For a moment, he felt a flicker of hope. Maybe tonight would be the night his work was finally recognized. But as people approached his section, he noticed the sideways glances, the smirks, and the murmured comments. "What is this supposed to be? It looks so basic. I can't believe the gallery let this in. It doesn't belong here. Is this art? My kid could paint better than this." Each word hit him like a dagger. Elijah tried to focus on the few people who lingered near his paintings, hoping they saw something different. But even they walked away, shaking their heads or laughing quietly. The gallery owner, a man who had reluctantly given Elijah a spot after much pleading, approached him with a strained smile. "Look, Elijah," he said, "not everyone's work is going to resonate here. Maybe you should aim for a more casual audience." The humiliation was unbearable. Elijah felt his dreams crumbling around him. He grabbed his coat, ready to leave the gallery and the art world behind. His mother's words echoed in his mind, "Your voice matters." But tonight, it felt like it didn't. Just as he was about to walk out the door, he heard a soft, unfamiliar voice behind him. "Excuse me, are you the artist?" Elijah turned around to face the woman who had addressed him. She was older, with kind eyes and an air of sophistication. Her deep green scarf and silver hair stood out among the crowd. "Yes, I'm the artist," Elijah said hesitantly, bracing himself for more criticism. The woman smiled warmly. "I couldn't leave without telling you how deeply your work moved me. This piece right here," she said, pointing to a painting of a small child staring at a stormy sea. "It feels like it's telling my story." Elijah blinked in surprise. "Your story?" The woman nodded, her voice soft but firm. "It reminds me of my late husband. He was an artist too, and his work always had this raw, emotional depth. Your painting captured something I haven't felt in years, a connection to the human soul." Elijah's throat tightened. For the first time that evening, he felt seen. "Thank you," he said quietly. The woman extended her hand. "I'm Margaret. I'd like to buy this painting, and not just this one. Several of your pieces, if they're available." Elijah's eyes widened. "You want to buy my work?" "Yes," she said with a smile. "And I'd like to hear your story, Elijah. Your perspective is rare, and the world needs more of it." As Margaret wrote him a check, a sum far more than he'd expected, she handed him a business card. "Let's keep in touch. I think your art deserves a bigger stage." Elijah thanked her profusely, his earlier humiliation melting away. As he left the gallery that night, he clutched the card tightly, feeling a renewed sense of hope. A week later, Elijah sat in his tiny apartment, still marveling at the events of the gallery. The check Margaret had given him was enough to cover his bills for several months, but her words and the business card intrigued him even more. After some hesitation, he decided to call her. Margaret answered warmly and invited him to meet her at another gallery in the heart of the city. Nervous but curious, Elijah agreed. When he arrived, he was stunned by the venue, a grand, bustling gallery filled with exquisite artwork and elite patrons. Margaret greeted him and introduced him to the gallery owner, a sharp-eyed man named Victor. "This is the artist I was telling you about," Margaret said proudly. "Elijah's work is extraordinary, and I think it would be a perfect addition to your upcoming exhibit." Victor examined Elijah for a moment, then turned to Margaret. "If you vouch for him, that's good enough for me. Let's see some of his work." Elijah had brought a portfolio of his best pieces, and as Victor flipped through them, his expression shifted from skeptical to impressed. "This is raw, emotional, and genuine," Victor said. "I'll feature you in the next show." Over the next few weeks, Margaret helped Elijah prepare for the exhibition. She introduced him to collectors, art critics, and other influential figures in the industry. She even shared stories of her late husband's struggles as an artist, encouraging Elijah to embrace his unique perspective. When the exhibition finally opened, Elijah's work was the highlight of the evening. People marveled at his paintings, and several pieces sold for significant sums. The gallery owner praised Elijah, calling him a rising star in the art world. For the first time, Elijah felt like his dream was within reach. Margaret's belief in him had opened doors he never thought possible. Elijah stood outside the gallery that evening, his heart pounding with excitement. The exhibition had been a massive success, and he was overwhelmed by the outpouring of appreciation for his work. Collectors had purchased most of his pieces, and for the first time in his life, Elijah felt like he was finally being seen for the artist he truly was. As he took a deep breath of the crisp evening air, Margaret walked up to him with a proud smile. "You did it, Elijah. I hope you're starting to see what I've seen in you all along." Elijah turned to her, his voice full of gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you, Margaret. None of this would have been possible without you." Margaret shook her head gently. "Don't thank me. Your talent brought you here. I just gave you a push in the right direction." Later that night, as Elijah sat in his modest apartment, now filled with congratulatory flowers and notes from the gallery, he reflected on his journey. His mind wandered back to the countless nights he'd spent doubting himself, painting in dim light, wondering if his work would ever mean anything to anyone. He thought about his mother, who had always encouraged him to follow his dreams despite their struggles. Her words echoed in his mind. "Your voice matters, Elijah. Don't ever forget that." For years he had clung to those words as his guiding light, even when the world seemed determined to snuff it out. Margaret's kindness had reminded him that there were still people who believed in the power of raw, unpolished talent. Her support wasn't just about buying his work or connecting him with influential people. It was about validating his voice in a world that often silenced voices like his. The weeks that followed the exhibition were a whirlwind. Elijah's name began circulating in art circles, and his work gained widespread recognition. He was invited to participate in more exhibitions, and soon, collectors were seeking him out instead of the other way around. But Elijah's success didn't make him forget where he came from. He often revisited his old neighborhood, sharing his story with young artists who felt overlooked or discouraged. He wanted to be the mentor that he had longed for during his darkest days. One day, he returned to the community center where he used to spend hours sketching as a teenager. He offered to teach free art classes for children and teens, hoping to inspire the next generation of artists. The first session was packed, and Elijah was moved to see so many young faces eager to learn and express themselves. During one class, a shy boy approached him with a crumpled drawing. "Mr. Elijah," the boy said softly, "do you think this is good enough?" Elijah knelt down, studying the boy's work carefully. "This is more than good enough," he said with a smile. "This is the beginning of something amazing. Don't stop creating, okay?" The boy beamed, and Elijah felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He realized that his journey wasn't just about his own success. It was about paving the way for others to believe in their own potential. Months later, Elijah received an unexpected invitation to speak at a prestigious art conference. The event was a gathering of some of the most influential artists, critics, and collectors in the world. As he stood on the stage looking out at the sea of faces, he felt a mix of nerves and excitement. He began his speech by sharing his story, from the struggles of his early years to the pivotal moment when Margaret had recognized his talent. He spoke about the importance of resilience, the power of believing in oneself, and the profound impact of having someone believe in you. Art isn't just about technique or polish, Elijah said. It's about telling a story, connecting with people, and making them feel something. For a long time, I thought my voice didn't matter. But I've learned that every voice matters. You just need to find the right people who are willing to listen. His speech was met with a standing ovation, and afterward, many attendees approached him to express how deeply his story had resonated with them. With his newfound success, Elijah decided to create a foundation to support underrepresented artists. He named it after his mother, who had been his first and most unwavering supporter. The foundation provided grants, mentorship, and opportunities for artists from marginalized communities to showcase their work. Margaret became a key advisor for the foundation, using her network and experience to help Elijah bring his vision to life. Together, they worked tirelessly to ensure that no talented artist would feel as isolated or overlooked as Elijah once had. Years later, Elijah stood in a grand gallery, now featuring a retrospective of his work. The walls were lined with his paintings, each one a testament to his journey, the struggles, the triumphs, and the moments that had shaped him.